There was a time when motorcycles were raw, unapologetic, and alive. The 1980s didn't just give us neon jackets, big hair, and tape decks. It gave us some of the most iconic motorcycles ever built. These weren't perfect bikes by today's standards. They had flaws. They leaked. They demanded skill. But that's exactly why riders loved them, and still do. Back then, bikes weren't corporate products. They were passion projects, built by engineers who cared about the ride more than the spec sheet. Each design had a purpose. Each engine had a soul. Modern bikes are remarkable, but they're also sterile. You can ride them at 150 mph in slippers because electronics fix every mistake. But in the 80s, the bike didn't save you. You saved yourself. And that's why riders still chase these machines. Here are 10 motorcycles from the 1980s that are better than modern bikes. Not on paper, but in spirit. If you grew up with these bikes, or wish you had, hit subscribe right now. Because this channel doesn't just talk about motorcycles. We keep legends alive. Hit the bell. Drop a comment with your favorite 1980s bike. And never forget, real riders keep history running. If the CB750 wrote the rule book, the CB1100F tore a few pages out. With 106 horsepower, this thing was a 4-cylinder hammer dressed in polished chrome. It could sprint, it could tour, and it could scare you. The seating was perfect, upright but aggressive, giving the balance between comfort and control. The coolest thing? Honda put their Formula One experience into this bike's valves and combustion setup. It revved clean. It pulled forever. And unlike many modern bikes, it had a soulful sound. Every burst of throttle gave you instant feedback. No traction control, no ride-by-wire delays, just torque and grit. If you wanted a machine that did everything, commute, race, and crush egos, the CB1100F was it. Modern naked bikes might be faster, but none have the same heartbeat. Even today, mention the Yamaha V-Max, and you'll see older riders grin, and younger ones raise eyebrows. This was a bike so powerful in its day that magazines called it unfriendly for human hands. The V-Boost system would open at 6,000 RPM and turn the bike from a cruiser into a war machine. It was terrifying, yes, but unforgettable. People loved it not because it was safe or precise, but because it made you feel alive. Where modern bikes try to manage torque and linearize delivery, the V-Max dumped it all at once. It didn't care about your comfort. It only cared about chaos. Even now, few bikes can match the personality of the 1985 V-Max. It was a rebel, and it made you one too. This was the legend that started it all, the first Ninja. At 115 horsepower, the GPz900R was a missile in street clothes. It wasn't just fast. It was refined. Its 16-valve motor, light frame, and aerodynamic fairing made it the first true modern superbike. But more than numbers, it had charm. You could ride it to work, commute home, and then destroy sport cars on the weekend. Tom Cruise made it famous in Top Gun, but riders made it immortal. The GPz900R blended practicality with danger better than almost any bike ever built. Modern Ninjas are clinically perfect machines, but the original GPZ? That one had swagger. Every GS, from giant 1250s to custom scramblers, can trace its DNA to this bike. The BMW R80G was simplicity perfected. A twin-cylinder, shaft-driven adventurer that could do it all. It won Dakar before adventure bikes existed. It wasn't for posers or luxury tourists. It was for explorers. Riders took these bikes across Africa, Asia, and South America. It was reliable, rugged, and fixable by a monkey with a wrench. Modern GS bikes are luxury SUVs on two wheels. The R80GS was a Land Rover with handlebars. BMW tried to sell adventure. This bike defined it. The Katana 1100 broke rules. It didn't look Japanese. It didn't look European. It looked like something that would cut air like a blade. Hence the name. It was bold, fast, polarizing, and decades ahead of its time. Even today, its sharp design makes modern bikes look lazy. Every angle screamed speed. Riding a katana was like piloting a fighter jet from a 90s anime. Uncomfortable, exhilarating, and unforgettable. And it had power, 100 horsepower of chain-rattling torque that punished anyone not holding on tight. Modern retro katanas? Beautiful toys. The original? A weapon drawn in steel and gasoline. The Honda VF1000R wasn't built to be the fastest or lightest. It was built to be the best. Every component was art. The paint, the build, the finish. All beyond anything else on the road. Honda built it because they could. It had gear-driven cams that howled like a banshee, twin headlights that looked like eyes, and more engineering detail than some race bikes today. If ever a motorcycle made you proud just to own it, it was this one. Modern sport bikes brag about 0.1 second shifts and cornering ABS. The VF1000R reminds us what mastery feels like through touch, not telemetry. This was Honda during its god-tier 1980s dominance, when engineers weren't scared to create legends. Before 600cc screamers became razor-sharp track rockets, Yamaha built the FZ600, a bike for real riders. It had 72 horsepower and 400 pounds of weight, hitting the sweet balance of performance and forgiveness. Every corner was a lesson in smoothness. Every late brake built confidence. Modern 600s rely on electronics to make you fast. The FZ relied on you. It rewarded bravery but punished ego, making better riders out of everyone who touched one. Ask anyone who rode an FZ600 when they were young. They'll tell you it's the bike that taught them respect. Honda's engineers basically said, let's create a sci-fi bike. And they did. The CX650 Turbo looked futuristic in 1983 and still does in 2025. You got digital displays, a turbocharger, liquid cooling, and fuel injection. It was smooth, fast, and whisper quiet. Most importantly, it worked flawlessly. No lag, no rough edges, just pure, efficient power. Today's manufacturers still can't pull off a turbo bike as seamlessly as Honda did 40 years ago. In a decade full of bold ideas, the CX650 Turbo proved that cutting-edge tech and reliability could coexist. The GPz900R Turbo was the antithesis of Honda's calm and collected CX650. Kawasaki didn't want refinement. They wanted chaos. This bike was a street weapon designed to terrify anyone dumb enough to underestimate it. Below 5,000 RPM, it felt like a normal 750. Past that, it turned into a fire-breathing psycho. The turbo surge hit like lightning in a storm. Instant, violent, thrilling. Modern rides warn you about traction control. This bike warned you with the smell of burnt rubber. No bike since has delivered a hit like that. That's why even today, collectors chase original GPz turbos, because no modern bike dares be that reckless again. Everything great about the 80s culminated in this, the Honda RC30. This wasn't a bike made for money. It was made for pride. Hand-built, tuned for racing, every component a masterpiece. It was flawless, but not sterile. Fast, but not soulless. It spoke to the rider like no modern digital machine can. You could feel every valve turning beneath you, every gear meshing with intention. It was the motorcycle equivalent of a symphony performed by gods. Modern superbikes beat its numbers. None beat its aura. The RC30 didn't just win. It defined perfection. The 1980s weren't a nostalgia trip. They were a revolution. It was the last decade where motorcycles were mechanical art pieces. Every click, every hum, every misfire felt organic and real. Today's bikes isolate riders from sensation. They feel manufactured, efficient, clinical. But these machines, they remind us that motorcycles aren't appliances. They're extensions of the human spirit. They weren't built for algorithms. They were built for emotions. Each one, whether it was a Honda or a Kawasaki, turned riders into heroes, not consumers. That's why people still rebuild them, still restore them, still risk everything to own them. They're not museum pieces. They're alive. The motorcycles of the 1980s didn't just change the industry. They defined what it means to ride. They had grit, danger, and freedom packed into every bolt. They made you rely on your skill, not your software. 40 years later, their legacy is untouchable. Modern machines might dominate track days, but those 80s icons still dominate hearts. So the next time someone brags about quick shifters and cornering ABS, show them a Katana, a GPZ Turbo, or an RC30. Then just start the engine. The sound alone wins the argument.